There's a lot of popular backpacking gear out there that I think is super, super overrated. And I wanted to touch on some of this backpacking gear because I think it would help a lot of people out in shaving weight out of your backpack and just making life a lot more comfortable and in a lot of ways a lot less complicated when you're out there on trail. The first piece of gear that we're going to talk about is it's not the trekking pole. I think trekking poles are one of those pieces of gear that everybody should have. It's just one of the best pieces of backpacking gear that you can carry. When it comes to overrated pieces of backpacking gear, we're actually going to talk about freestanding tents. One of the big disadvantages when it comes to freestanding tents is the weight of them. Now, the poles on a tent are going to account for a good chunk of the weight. So if you eliminate the need to carry pole sets for a freestanding tent and you transition to a trekking pole tent, you're already using the trekking pole, so you're eliminating the weight from that pole. And another disadvantage of freestanding tents that a lot of people don't talk about is how long they take to set up. And along with taking longer to set up, the process of setting up freestanding tents leaves you open to getting condensation and rain inside your shelter. Most freestanding tents, you set your pole assembly up, then you set up the mesh, and then you put your fly over top. With a trekking pole tent, you stake out your four corners usually, you put your 1 or 2 trekking poles in, and your shelter is up. The bug net and the rain fly are attached. Just a couple reasons why freestanding tents are very, very overrated. And sticking with tents and shelters, we're gonna talk about one of the most overrated components of a tent or shelter system, and that is a ground sheet. I fully understand there are a lot of situations where a ground sheet can come in handy. When I'm talking ground sheets, I'm talking, the ones that you'll buy in the store. They usually have these little tabs on them, and they're the brand name ones. You can get them for MSR and Big Agnes and Nemo and all these other, brand name tents. The big disadvantage to these is the weight and the cost. A lot of these ground sheets, or footprints as they get called a lot of times, a lot of these are like, $70 to $80. When you're dropping already a couple $100 on a really high quality backpacking tent, adding a ground sheet for, like another 70 or 80 bucks, to me, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Something very, very simple, cheap, and lightweight is just getting yourself a sheet of Tyvek. This is just the stuff you see on, new construction builds. They usually wrap the outside of a house in it. This is a really, really effective ground sheet for, using a tent, or if you're someone who sleeps in a hammock, something to put on the ground to keep your gear dry, have a dry place to step out when you get out of your hammock. With stuff like this, or even like a sheet of polycro, just that really thin plastic film, you really don't need to buy those overhyped, overpriced ground sheets in the stores. We're gonna talk about pack covers. Now, I see so many backpackers out there using pack covers, yeah, sure, they look really cool on your bag. Well, it does look, like, yeah, your pack is completely sealed inside and all your stuff is gonna stay dry. When you flip it around to the back, you've got a massive hole that you're dealing with. If you use one of these for long enough, I guarantee, you're gonna be hiking along and something's gonna snag this and it's gonna pull off to the side and expose the whole side of your pack. Or, you're just gonna get water coming in through the top, running down your shoulder straps, seeping in through the back panel here. But for anyone who's actually ever used one of these and, you've gone through a fairly heavy rain using a pack cover, I guarantee you guys have experienced, the little pouch of water that ends up at the bottom here, and you literally end up carrying your own little man-made lake in the bottom of the pack cover from all the water that runs down and just collects in the bottom. You're carrying significantly more water weight with all the water that pools in the bottom of these than your pack not absorbing a little tiny bit. Because in the end, really all this is going to do is it's going to keep the outside of your pack from getting wet. It's not really going to protect your gear on the inside, like we talked about. It's got a big hole in the back, and you're going to get water collecting in the bottom, and all that water is just going to soak right up through the bottom of your backpack. And you're going to be forced to do something inside your pack to keep your gear dry anyways, like using a pack liner or using dry bags. And using a pack liner is a much better system at keeping your backpacking gear dry. Pack covers just really, really overrated. Can save you a bunch of money. These things can get ridiculously pricey when you start picking them up. Just use a pack liner. Use a simple trash bag. It's going to work so much better. It's going to guarantee your gear stays dry inside. Pack covers are just junk. Completely empty hands for this next piece of overrated backpacking gear, because I actually don't even own one. They are so overrated. We're talking about handheld GPS units. I'm not talking about, an item like an InReach or a Zoleo or a Spot device. If you use something like that as a satellite communicator, an SOS device, that's not what we're talking about here at all. We're talking about like those Garmin units that don't have the InReach capabilities, that all they do is they'll just, you can load maps on them and you can track for them and stuff. And those things were great for so many years. I used to have one, and I ended up selling it because over the years, cell phone technology has gotten so much better, and having the ability to just put my phone on airplane mode and then run the GPS that way. And how many of us are not carrying our cell phone anyways out in the backcountry? You know, the cameras on your cell phone are amazing. You can capture some amazing photos on your cell phone, and having the ability to use that dual purpose and have that, you know, be your backcountry GPS, to me, it's just a no-brainer. It's going to eliminate having to carry extra gear. It's going to eliminate weight. It's going to eliminate another electronic that you might run out of batteries or you might have to charge up. You know, just if you got your cell phone, just use your phone. You don't need those handheld GPS devices. You don't need to drop another couple $100 to get one of those when you've already got a cell phone in your pocket anyways. Piece of gear number 5 now, and still empty hands, because another piece of gear that I actually don't have anymore. I have since gotten rid of it, but we're going to talk about solar chargers out in the backcountry. This is one that I get suggested to me all the time as a piece of gear that I should be carrying. I get suggested this almost on a weekly basis. One of those little battery banks that's got like the little fold-out solar panels on it, like you see on Amazon all the time. This is something that I tried a number of years ago, and they just simply don't work. Oh, you just dangle that solar panel off your backpack and you're hiking along, and it's just going to soak up all that solar energy, and it's going to recharge the battery bank on it throughout the day while you're hiking. And it's a great idea in theory, but in practical use, they just simply don't work. With that thing dangling off your backpack, you're never gonna get the optimal angle to catch the sun. And you know, you're moving, and you know, a lot of times you're hiking through trees and you're getting tree cover, and you're really not gonna get, you know, the consistent rays from the sun to charge up that unit. I've been on lots of backpacking trips where all you had was rain and clouds the entire time. And if I was relying on a solar powered unit to charge up my electronics, I'd be dead in the water after about a day and a half. So that's why I always suggest someone just carry a simple little battery bank. The advantage of going with a battery bank is you're not relying on the sun to produce power. You know, the power is already in that unit. You plug in any of your electronics that you want to keep topped up, it's going to charge them up as you're sleeping throughout the night. You throw this back in your bag, it's good to go the next night. You can also kind of fine tailor your battery power needs for the length of trip you're going on. Like, I know for myself, if I'm going out on anything less than a 4-day backpacking trip, you know, like 1, 2, or 3 days, I know that a 10,000 milliamp battery bank is more than enough. I can stretch that into a 4th day, but if I'm going for anything longer than 4 days, I switch to my 20,000 milliamp battery bank, and I know that that's going to get me through that trip. I've just had better and more consistent results going with the dedicated battery bank than any of the solar units that I've tried out there. There's just too many drawbacks to solar for it to be a viable source of powering your electronics out in the backcountry. Now, if you are interested in seeing more overhyped backpacking gear and gear that I have no interest in getting whatsoever, I've shot a couple different videos on that, and I'll pop those here and here for you guys. So when you're done with this one, check out either one of those. I'm sure you guys will enjoy. My hands are freaking freezing. I better go inside and warm up. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you on the next one.